Hi, first graders. Let's continue with our chapter book, The Last of the Really Great Whangdoodles. And first thing is first, get your scrappy caps. Put on your cap. And now we are ready to go. So the last thing that happened was the kids are running across the bridge and the Gaius Cuttus is coming after them. And the Wiffle Bird is trying to help the kids out. So we're going to backtrack just a tiny bit. Sick with fear, Lindy managed to cry, "Undo your jacket, Tom! Get out of it!" Tom heard her. He plucked at the buttons of his coat and raised his arms. He slid out of the sleeves and crashed onto the bridge just as the Wiffle Bird screamed, "Run for your lives!" She flew at the Gaius Cuttus again. The children picked themselves up and raced the last 100 yards to the huge burnished gates. Then a terrible thing happened. That's where I left off last. The confused Gaius Cuttus was trying to rid itself of Tom's jacket. The giant wings were thrashing, and the Wiffle Bird was helplessly caught up in the whirlwind. She received a mighty blow that knocked her to the bridge, where she lay horribly still. Tom gave an agonized cry and raced back to her side. "It's all right, Wiffle Bird. I'm here. I've got you. It's all right." He picked her up gently. Ben was yelling, "Tom, come on!" Tom looked up and saw that the Gaius Cuttus was coming at him once again. He began to run. It was a desperate race. The three children stumbled off the swaying bridge and under the tall archway, with the Gaius Cuttus only a few feet behind them. "The doors! Close the doors!" Ben flung himself against one side, and Lindy and Tom pushed hard against the other. With a mighty clang, the great bronze portals closed, and the enraged Gaius Cuttus slammed into them. The earth trembled, but the doors held. The children leaned against the cool metal, fighting to regain their breath. And when they had recovered significantly, they turned around to see where they were, and they received yet another shock. Standing in front of them was the Proc. "You surprised me," he said. "I didn't think you'd make it." He noticed the Wiffle Bird in Tom's arms. "What's the matter with her?" Ben said, "She's hurt. She tried to save us, and the Gaius Cuttus knocked her down." The Proc looked dreadfully concerned and took a step forward. Tom clutched the bird protectively. "Come along, boy," the Proc snapped. "Give the Wiffle Bird to me." "Not on your life, you big bully," Tom whispered fiercely. "Oh, this is really too much." The Proc stamped a long, thin foot in annoyance. "Do you realize the trouble you've caused? This is all your fault. The first accident we've had in the kingdom for a century. If you hadn't been here, none of this would have happened. You're an absolute menace." Tom was so angry that he yelled at the towering Proc. "Our fault, is it? Well, that's a stupid remark. Who sent that monster out there to attack us? Who tipped off the Kazooks and then Sidewinders and the Swamp Gazooms? Who arranged to have Lindy captured by the Splinter Cat? It was all your fault." The boy choked with emotion as he looked down at the feathered bundle lying so still in his arms. "If she doesn't get better, if she dies, I'll never forgive you, never." The Proc looked at Tom intently. Then he said in a quieter voice, "I suggest you give the bird to me. We know how to take care of her. She will be all right, I promise you." Tom hesitated. Ben said, "Do as he says, Tom." The Proc clapped his hands together. "Guard," he called. A large Sidewinder came trundling around the corner. It looked very startled at the sight of the children. Lindy gave a squeal of fear. "You will not be harmed," the Proc reassured her. He took the Wiffle Bird from Tom. She was whimpering with genuine pain and sounded very different from the brave bird who had pretended such agony in front of the Splinter Cat. "You're sure she'll be all right?" the boy asked anxiously. "You know, she was trying to save me when she got hurt." He touched her gently in farewell. "We will do our best," the Proc replied gravely. He handed the bird to the Sidewinder, who walked away quietly and quickly. "Now tell me your friend, the professor," the Proc said. "Tell me about him, and why is he not with you?" He just couldn't get here, Lindy answered. He was so tired and he couldn't see the bridge. It was too much for him, explained Ben. He would have been all right if it hadn't been for all the things you put in our way. He hasn't really been feeling well since we jumped off the brains train, growled Tom. That's when it started. He told us to come on by ourselves, said Lindy. He said he was sure the Whangdoodle would understand and would see us. I see. The Proc looked thoughtful, and there seemed to be a trace of disappointment in his voice. Then his expression changed, and he said briskly, Well, I'm sorry, but this is the end of your journey. I can tell you now that the Whangdoodle will not receive you. You might just as well turn around, find your professor, and go home. Oh, don't say that, Ben cried desperately. Tom said, We promised the professor that we would speak to the Whangdoodle. I've got to give him his regards, added Lindy tearfully. There's nothing I can do, said the Proc firmly, and he began to usher them towards the gates. The children hung back. Tom had never felt so depressed. I want to see if the Whifflebird's going to be all right. Huge tears rolled down Lindy's face. We've worked so hard. It just can't end like this. Isn't there something you can do? The Proc was shaking his head. I'm afraid not, you see. But he didn't finish, for with a sob Lindy rushed to his side and flung her arms around him. Oh, please, please, she begged, and buried her face in his thick, baggy sweater. She wept as if her heart would break. The Proc knelt beside her. He was distinctly uncomfortable. Now, Miss Lindy, you mustn't cry. I can't stand to see people cry. Lindy's hands stole up around his neck, and she clung to him tightly. He was red in the face and covered with confusion. Ben and Tom looked at each other. It's okay, Lindy, Ben said gently. I guess it'll have to be like the professor says. Every once in a while, people fail in spite of trying. He'll understand. But I don't understand, she wailed. At home, if somebody tried hard and really, really wanted to see the president, then they could. She gazed imploringly at the Proc. Dear Proc, couldn't you just this once forget about being in charge of that sort of thing? Couldn't you speak to the Whangdoodle for us? I want to see him more than anything in the whole world. The Proc hesitated. He looked at the boys and looked back at Lindy. He touched her tear-stained face. Oh, you human beings, he said with feeling. When will I ever learn? He rubbed Lindy's cheek, and with the sleeve of his sweater, Come along. I can see there's only one way to get any peace around here, and that's to let you meet the Whangdoodle. We'll stop there. So it looks like they will meet the Whangdoodle after all.